one of the largest problem is that for generations together, there have been certain myths, especially the rural areas. And the myths are that if you have a girl with disability in the family, it's a curse on the family. So they keep them hidden because they worry that the siblings may not get married.
Could you share a transformative success story that highlights the impact of youth for jobs on an individual's life? I know you might have tons of stories, but one which stands out.
Yeah. Don't forget, uh, currently we touch 18 youth with disability every single day.
Wow.
In gender, mainstreamed in community, mainstreamed in society. That's what empowerment means, because you don't want them to stick out. They need not be very big achievers. But if you get mainstreamed and recognized as a human being, I think that itself, is a very, very good thing to happen.
Talking about the international recognition, national recognition, and most importantly, mentioned by Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji, right? And the number of awards that you have received, right? How have they impacted your work?
Because even in COVID, who spread the message about our training was the mothers. They became our word of mouth ambassadors because they said there was this organization called Youth for Jobs, which is training for jobs in these difficult times. So please, they got all their neighbors, anyone with disability to enroll. I think when she gets money in her pocket, what actually happens is that suddenly she finds she has a voice. People who ignored her start looking at her.
So, folks, you have tuned into TGV and hearty welcome to the Guiding Voice podcast series, the world's only quadrilingual podcast at this moment of recording. And we are trying to embark into multiple languages as we speak. And here we embark on transformative conversations for a better future. And we want to simplify and amplify your journey to success. I'm your host, Navin Samala, dedicated to making the world a better place by bringing you wisdom through valuable discussions with experts designed to simplify and amplify your success. And thank you so much for tuning in. So, folks, you have tuned into 625th episode of The Guiding Voice. Yes, you are hearing it right. And it took little over 5 years for us to achieve this milestone. This is one of the biggest milestones that very rare Indian podcasts have achieved. And today, we have brought you a role model as a guest for our 625th episode. She's one of the most inspiring personalities that I have met recently. And thanks to Durga Prasad Kamalampeta for connecting me with Meera Shenoy. She will be the guest today. And she is a pioneering social entrepreneur and the founder of Youth for Jobs. It is South Asia's largest organization dedicated to training and employing youth, not the regular youth, but people with disabilities. And her innovative initiatives, including Swarajability and Not Just Art, have garnered national and international acclaim, positioning her as a leading voice in disability, inclusion, and empowerment. So, folks, today we are going to discuss an important topic: empowering abilities. Meera Shenoy's mission with women with disabilities. But before we get into our topic, here is an exciting twist as always. Let us tickle our guest's brain. So, Meera, get ready for a rapid fire round of random words. And I would love to hear the first thing that comes to your mind as and when I start mentioning few words. If you're ready, let's get started.
Ready. And thanks, Naveen, for inviting me here. It's a pleasure to be on the 625th episode. My God.
Thank you so much. And it is equally my pleasure and really an honor to have you as a guest, because the initiatives that you are leading, right? They are all mammoth. They are humongous. Like, I don't have words to say because we are going to present that with to our audience today. But before that, let's get started with the rapid fire round.
Hello, I'm Steve Ahern, one of the judges of the Asia Podcast Awards. I'm interrupting this episode to let you know that you're listening to an award-winning podcast. This podcast won its category in the 2024 Podcast Awards, so you know you're listening to quality. Enjoy your listening experience, and congratulations to the team who created this award-winning podcast for you.
My first word is curiosity,
Cat.
invention,
Faraday.
future,
Life on planet.
universe,
Blessings.
leadership,
Compassion.
success,
Define it.
inclusion,
Super.
diversity.
Equality.
And the last one is empowerment.
Women.
Wow, spot on. I loved all the responses and thank you so much for participating in the first rapid fire round. There is one more rapid fire round toward the end of the episode, so stay tuned. And before we get started, I would like to officially welcome you to the show. Hearty welcome to the Guiding Voice podcast series. And thank you so much for being part of our journey in shaping the careers and lives of millions across the globe. And how are you doing today?
Great. Saturday weekends are always super days.
All right. I will get the ball rolling. So, Meera, talk to us about who is your guiding voice?
I think for us, for me especially, there's an inner voice which guides me. It's a voice which tells me, am I on the path of right? Okay.
Mhm,
Especially when I face difficult decisions. And so what I do nowadays, Naveen, is I don't act in a hurry. Okay. So, for
mhm.
example, sometime back, what I used to do is someone writes you an angry email. You just press the button and write an angry email back. Okay. And afterwards, you regret it. So now, in any difficult situation, I just breathe, reflect, and then I listen to the inner voice, and never do I go wrong.
Yeah. There is a saying, right? When people are angry, maybe if you wait for a day or so, the anger level suppresses and we don't do the same thing. And as you rightly said, in fact, I also had similar regretful moments whenever we respond hazily. Great. Thank you for sharing that candidly. Now, talk to us about your success mantra, as in top three things that have contributed to your success so far.
um, One definitely is the very firm belief in the potential of the poor, and much more so now in disability, which is a far more vulnerable population. So I think that's one. Second is transparency in our own work, and very clearly disseminating our values of transparency so that everyone knows what we stand for, and the other forces don't come near us. And the last, I think, is an evidence based mantra, which I've evolved after years of working with underprivileged youth and markets, and that is a livelihood to one member of the family, especially now if it's disabled, then the
Mhm.
entire family comes out of poverty in a sustained manner. And that is actually something which really keeps me going on the path despite any challenges. So these top three.
Wow. So profound. And let's shift gears and talk about the toughest lessons you have learned in your social entrepreneurship journey. Something which you might have not anticipated, but maybe it became a lesson.
Um, I think one is the need for humility. Okay, because never can you say that your work is so outstanding, or the West, especially in countries like India, where you go to the remote villages. I remember I went to this you know small tribal area, and even there's one person completely unsung who's doing such brilliant work. Many of them I think you are talking about in your podcast, Naveen. But
Yeah.
that drives you, and teaches you the lesson of being really humble. The second is, I think, the lesson I learned is that the path of a founder can be pretty lonely on the top. So you need to, therefore, have a very good uh, group of leaders whose capabilities you should hone. And today I'm happy to say in Youth for Jobs, we have 75 leaders with disabilities who are in the districts whose capacities we are building to lead. And that's really, fantastic, because what it does is that it makes you learn from them, listen from them continuously, and inclusion gets integrated willy nilly into the organization. And third, of course, to keep your vision, your mantra in front of you, and always work on evidence based solutions. I think
Mhm.
that these three, are tough lessons, because sometimes what happens is you're so wedded to your model that you think that, haha, I can proceed. But the necessity that you should do a pilot, you should collect evidence, and only then you should template the model for scale is a good lesson, we've learned.
Excellent. And let's talk about Youth for Jobs, right? What inspired you to establish Youth for Jobs, and how did your journey in disability inclusion begin? Like, was there any pivotal moment which thought, okay, let me focus on disability space kind of thing? How did it all begin?
um, My previous work was I started India's first skilling mission for
Hmm.
the government of AP called the EGMM. After that, I worked with the World Bank and UN. And continuously in this journey, I'd always worked with youth, underprivileged youth, and markets. So when I decided to do something on my own, Naveen, I was clear that I wanted to work with youth, but I didn't know what to do, nor did I want to repeat my earlier work. And then I saw ILO statistics that 80% of the world's disabled population live in countries like India. I said, my God, this sounds a great number. Then I looked around me to see what's the kind of work which is happening. This is about 13 years ago. And then I saw that there were one or two organizations, but they were basically worked with the urban youth. So the numbers you train and place are incredibly small. I reflected and thought to myself, so is this an opportunity for me to once more give a country a model for scale with a more vulnerable population? Because till then I'd been working with rural and tribal youth, but never looked at disability as a as people to work with. And
Hmm.
that is how I chose. So to me, it was going down, in fact, the value chain to a more vulnerable, to a more neglected population, and testing, my own abilities to see if I can once again do better. Because before, don't forget, when I sat, I was in the government. So the
Right.
government gives you certain kind of cushions, let's say, to help you to scale. So people used to say, I was entrepreneurial with government money. Okay, then, because I did all sorts of new things sitting there. But over here, as a social entrepreneur, it's completely different. You don't have a cushion with you. So it was for me also to see, can I once again do a scaled up model in a more vulnerable population outside the government, where you are alone in some sense.
Hmm.
That's
Got
what attracted me to this space.
it. Also, were there any personal experiences or stories that fueled your passion for empowering women with disabilities? You mentioned about 80% of disabled people don't get enough thing, right? But
Yeah.
maybe talking about your family or any close relatives, do you have anything to relate to in terms of personal experiences?
Actually, funnily enough, no. But I think the trigger came during COVID.
Uh-huh. Hmm. Hmm.
During COVID, what happened is we had set up helplines across the country,
Hmm.
and our call centers were completely jammed by women telling us, saying that, Youth for Jobs, by and large, trains more males. We need jobs. We need money in our pockets in these hard times. Because, as you know, when there's limited money, the last one to be fed is a person with disability. And the last test is a woman with disability. So we said, okay, we asked them, what is it you want? And all of them told us that, can you do afternoon lessons? Because in the morning, we have our housework to do. So we started afternoon lessons. And of course, we also had to rejig our model. We had to learn how to give them jobs locally, because women, these were young widows, they were young women with children. Um, and then McKinsey did a pro bono kind of impact evaluation for us. And it completely stunned me, Naveen, completely stunned me, because on every indicator, whether you looked at a voice in the community, a voice in the family, sexual exploitation, every indicator had improved. And the other beautiful thing was that they every woman said that we are willing to mentor and help others. So I
Yeah.
told my team, saying that, hey, listen, we can't stop this work and leave it like a pilot. We really have to take it deeper. And that's how we started our journey of women with disability. And it's such phenomenally important work, because what happens not just in India but globally, these intergenerational issues get left out. So people may look at gender, but they don't look at gender with disability. Okay. You also call it the co-vulnerabilities. Okay. And
Mhm.
these, like if you look at geography, you have these aspirational districts. Now those are co-vulnerability. It's already vulnerable. And then on top of that, it's a remote area. So like that, this co-vulnerable area is an area where very few work, because it's extremely complex. So that began our journey, with women with disabilities. And for us, women have always been a support, because even in COVID, who spread the message about our training was the mothers. They
Mhm.
became our word of mouth ambassadors, because they said there was this organization called Youth for Jobs, which is training for jobs in these difficult times. So please, they got all their neighbors, anyone with disability to enroll. And you know what happens when a woman with disability or a woman actually gets money in her pocket? There's enough evidence to say that the whole family gets benefited, because she doesn't spend it on herself, but she
Yeah.
spends it on the whole family.
Mhm. So you have explored the unexplored path, right? So,
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
and yeah, that is so inspiring, and especially it needs lot of guts to step into that area, because it sounds so scary, right? When you are venturing into something which not many people have already done and all, but that is so
Yeah,
inspiring about you.
that's
Yeah.
true. No, yeah, I think that's what keeps us on the journey. You know,
Mhm.
each time you see, you feel so inspired by the 360-degree transformation of lives.
Right. Yeah, that brings me to my next one. Like, could you share a transformative success story that highlights the impact of youth for jobs on an individual's life? I know you might have tons of stories, but one which stands out.
Yeah. Don't forget, uh, currently we touch 18 youth with disability every single day.
Wow.
Okay.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
so it's not just me, but I think for my entire team, which is now about 320, they all get inspired by the work they do, because all these youth come back and tell them their stories. But just to tell some of the inspiring stories, let me just tell you two. One was this girl who had a severe disability, and we couldn't place her because her disability was really more than 80%. So
Mhm.
every day, because she knew English, somehow she had got my number, and she would WhatsApp me, today also no job, today also no job, because we were trying, but we couldn't get. Okay. So finally, we managed to get her into this job in one of the MNCs, where she could sit and look at traffic control the traffic on the television. Okay. She was absolutely thrilled. She joined the job. But and for the first time, she had aspirations, because she got herself a electronic wheelchair where she could go around the house. It became more independent. And her mother, I'll never, never forget Naveen, her mother
Mhm, mhm.
blessed her, saying that I bless Youth for Jobs, because every mother of a girl with disability is really so worried, because when she dies, the siblings don't want to look after that child, especially if the child doesn't have any income. Okay.
Right.
So
Mhm.
she said that I bless Youth for Jobs, because now I can die in peace. I'll never, never forget that. And
Yeah.
that's, I think, true of every parent of the people who place And like that, even enterprise, we have stories. And, in the remote areas, actually, it's quite surprising. So, for example, there was this young girl with
Mhm.
disability who didn't come to take the sewing machine which we had given her after the entrepreneur training. So we wondered why, and my team went to her to deliver it. They were completely shocked. Her only income was the pension she drew. She was staying with her mother. So if the pension didn't come on time, then there was
Mhm.
no food. They went hungry.
Oh my God.
So,
Mhm.
and when we asked her, why didn't you come? She said, see, from my place to come, there's no public transport. So she has to walk a long distance and then come. And obviously, she felt that it, I think she could do it. So we gave her the asset. Today she's earning, and, at least hunger has gone away from their lives. Okay. So I think that's what a livelihood does. It takes away its hunger, it takes away poverty in a very, very clear manner. And it's like what we say, they move from being a liability to an asset. Okay. Because till then they were a mouth to be fed. Now, in fact, what they're doing, they're feeding other mouths. Okay.
Yeah. Mm.
And, and in many cases, because, we are the voice of the people with disability, we manage to give them jobs where the incomes are better than their siblings who are not disabled, and certainly more than their father, because the father is a farmer who has only when it rains he gets money. Otherwise, he's a marginal farmer. So it really becomes like a 360-degree inspirational story
Mm.
for all.
It's heart touching. Thank you for sharing that. And one of your initiatives is this Swarajability, right? So can you elaborate on that and what role it is creating in terms of enhancing the employment opportunities for youth with disabilities?
So we were winners of this Asia winners of the MIT Inclusion
Mm.
Challenge Award.
Mm.
So when
Mm.
I'd gone to the US to MIT to receive it, every single judge separately came and whispered to me saying that, see, you have control on the demand and supply. The next step for you is to just connect the two with a platform.
Mm.
So I came back to India, Naveen, and I thought to myself, yeah, okay, why not? And what happens is, I think every step of our work, the universe supports us. Okay. So
Yeah.
I was wondering who to ask for tech help, because at that point we didn't have any tech person. So I wrote to the office of the scientific officer of the prime ministers, and he sent a letter to all the IITs saying, here's this lady who's asking this help, who wants to help.
Mhm.
4 days later, I got a call from IIT Hyderabad, my
Mhm.
neighborhood, okay, from
Yeah.
the director, saying that, hey, Meera, I heard you sent this thing. I'm willing to help. And why was he willing to help? His wife was on a wheelchair. He had married his cousin. And so
Mm.
he was, very, very keen to support anything with disability. So we got them to work on our AI algorithms. We had CII join us. We had ILO join us. We had the Retail Sector Council join us. The best of partners, and the platform is completely accessible, which means a blind, a speech and hearing impaired, anyone can register on the platform without needing, support, because when you touch it, it's all buttons. It's
Mhm.
now available in, I think, in about 12 languages.
Wow.
Um, and there are something like, I think, about 2 lakh odd youth registered. I think we have about 1,600 companies registered. um yeah, it's a great feeling, and more importantly, I think what it does for youth for jobs is that it takes us to our next level of being a system changer, because governments, we are labeling it and giving it to state governments. The central government works with us. NGOs who want to train but don't know how to place, they come and put their data. Educational institutions, so we're able to support the entire ecosphere. And
Mhm.
that, I think, is the best part of the vision. That's the best part of Swarajability.
Excellent. mind blowing. And then talking about the international recognition, national recognition, and most importantly, mentioned by Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji, right? And the number of awards that you have received, right? How have they impacted your work?
Well, I think one thing certainly what Mann Ki Baat does is that, I mean, because it's Honorable Prime Minister's most popular talk show,
Yeah.
it certainly opens doors, I think, and builds the Youth for Jobs brand. I mean, not that you need a brand building, but I think that coming from someone, like the Honorable Prime Minister is really nice. And this later was followed by, they, they did an Amar Chitra Katha on me. It was a
Mm.
fabulous one. My whole team was so thrilled saying, oh, now, our work is immortalized. Okay. And it was such a beautiful one. I can't tell you. I must really compliment the team for doing it, a really nice one. So, so I think what happens is that somewhere people treat you with more respect because, of these things. You know how humble I am,
Yeah. Yeah.
for me, I'm true Advaita Vedantist who believes that the work is not mine, that some force has made this my journey, so I'm the face, to it.
Mm.
And
Mm.
and because of that, I think every day when I have any challenges, answers come, people come, every single step of us, people come and support us. I just can't tell you how. So obviously, must be the same for many people who do good, who don't ask for things for themselves, but, they're just saying, oh God, this is what is needed, in the space of disability. And then, lo, someone comes and supports you. So I think that there are myriads example of that which are there in my life. And therefore, what happens is that, simple benchmarks like getting the Scott McKinsey fund, okay? We were one of them. I mean, funders scold us for being so quiet and humble and, not making enough noise about our work because so many people keep talking about their work in the press. I don't think I know a single press. And these days, if anyone wants to talk, we have one or two spokesmen of ours who are people with disabilities, like
Mm.
Uday, who looks at our Smart Inclusion Center. So I hardly talk unless people want only me. Okay.
Mm.
Because I truly believe that this work is everyone's and the organization should not be attached to the founder. I set it up because I had a dream. But today, now, every single leader and my team is adding value to it. So a founder can't just lifelong think, the organization is his own. Okay, gone are those days now. So I think that really helps us. And, I think there's a tremendous, I've just come back from Gujarat where I can't tell you if I visit a corporate, the kind of respect I get. My team is completely floored. It's like it's it's
Mm.
it's really it's really something.
That actually comes with the kind of work that you are doing. Automatically, people tend to respect because as I told earlier, it is uncharted territory, and you have made a significant impact and building that particular legacy. Right, is something truly motivating for others as well. And we'll take a step back and talk about the unique challenges that the women with disabilities face compared to men, and how do your programs tailor support specifically for them?
Yeah, good question, Naveen. I think one of the largest problem is that for generations together, there have been certain myths, especially the rural areas, and the myths are that if you have a girl with disability in the family, it's a curse on the family. So they keep them hidden because they worry that the siblings may not get married. So
Mm-hmm.
they keep that girl hidden, and therefore census also doesn't capture their numbers. That's the other problem. So you don't have hard data for the economists and the others to work on. Okay. So that's problem one. Second is that because when money is less, these are the last people who are educated. So you'll see that three times less educated. If you look at linked to education is also obviously employment. So they're 2 times less employed. So on every indicator, if you look at it, sexual exploitation is extremely high because quite often these kids are left in the, both the parents go out to work, they lock it. Sometimes they, tie the child up and leave in the house so that the child doesn't wander. And
Mhm.
there are people around. Okay. So, in every indicator you look at it, women with disabilities have the maximum challenges, and it's very complex. Even something so simple, like self help groups. Okay. You would say, why can't there be self help groups? After all, it's a safety net for the disabled. But
Mm.
because of the attitudes of other women in rural India, these women hesitate to join the self help groups, and they hesitate then to take the money from the self help groups if they are a member to set up an enterprise because the whole society is telling them you can't, you can't, you can't.
Mhm. Mhm.
So that's the, I mean, it's like multiple, multiple levels.
Mhm. Mhm. Got it. And how about the programs? How are they tailored? And what is the first thing that you guys do when these guys are inducted? Like, how do you motivate them in terms of instilling that confidence or something?
Yeah, I think what we do is our work is at 2, 3 levels. One is advocacy,
Mhm.
because you need to tell society that listen, women with disabilities can. So what we do is we bring out booklets. Okay,
Right.
so we did a booklet on women entrepreneurs in India, and we just couldn't find them. In secondary research, we had to really, really, really take so much pains. And the stories were such nice stories. There was someone running something called the Pudina Punch. Okay. So very, very attractive stories like that. Okay. Um, so we brought out a booklet which was launched at the Zero project, which is the global project, largest project on disability, is our partner, and I
Mhm.
do the Zero Project Conference in India. So we launched this booklet in the UN headquarters at the Zero Conference in Austria. After that, we brought out a booklet on South Asia. Now we're bringing out a booklet on Africa. So advocacy is the one level. Okay.
Right.
The second level is hands-on work, where we do work on um, training them in 21st century skills and linking them to most often entry level jobs because they've never worked before and they really want to have, you know, a job. And then, of course, the next level is to help the others with enterprises. Uh, so these are the broad levels on which we work, and the work is really expanding. Based on our work in Karnataka, we have one of the largest projects given to us by the government on women with disabilities to sensitize all the SDGs on disability and to empower the women with disability, both in terms of jobs and enterprises. So it's a really large project which we are very excited about, and putting in place all the
Mm.
necessity things to crack this. I think it will become globally one of the largest projects for women with disabilities.
Wonderful. And you said that if you empower a woman or a girl with disability, right, entire family is taken care. So I would like you to double click on that in terms of what does true empowerment look like for a woman with a disability in today's world.
I think when she gets money in her pocket, what actually happens is that suddenly she finds she has a voice. People who ignored her start looking at her. Okay. So, yes, one is voice. Second is the ability to be active and confident.
Mhm.
And I think most importantly, mainstreamed in gender, mainstreamed in community, mainstreamed in society. That's what empowerment means because you don't want them to stick out. They need not be very big achievers. But if you get mainstreamed and recognized as a human being, I think that itself, is a very, very good thing to happen.
Yeah, got it. And a while ago, you mentioned that in rural India, like people think like if a girl or a boy is born with a disability, it is treated as a curse on the family. Likewise, are there any other biggest myths or stereotypes about women with disabilities that you actively try to shatter?
I think, I think the number of myths which exist are so many, but many of the myths are common to men and women.
Hmm.
It's
Hmm.
not only women. I think the biggest myth is that, hiding this girl child because they feel it'll affect the other siblings.
Right.
I
Yeah.
think
Yeah. Mm.
that's, I think, one of the single largest which we have to battle.
Hmm.
The other associated myths are, which are, you feel that the woman will always say, um, I heard one telling the collector, entire society said I'm useless. Entire society said I'm useless. I also thought I'm useless. I grew up feeling I'm useless. Then this Youth for Jobs trainee says, no, no, you can do, and makes me sit in this enterprise training. And I do it. And today she's running a business of spices. Okay. So she says spice powders. So she says, now I'm earning, She's got one hand and she's a little older. She's about 35. So
Hmm.
she grew up her whole life, Daveen, thinking, I can't. And what
Right.
we do is we convert that to you can,
Hmm. Got it.
Physically, sometimes, as she said, saying, no, you come and sit in the training. We know you can, because she's saying, I can't. Okay.
All right. And my next one is like, have you come across any unexpected skills or talents in these women that changed the course of your programs? Any surprising skills or talents?
um, I think that one thing which we do, which is very important for us, is we always listen to their voices. Okay. So, as I told you, the COVID story,
Hmm.
making the trainings, for example, in the afternoon. We never used to give trainings in the afternoon. So, we did that. Okay. The other is, I think that uh, every time we keep integrating, for example, for the women, we listen to them and ask them, what more would you like? So for example, recently some of the women said they didn't know what. Okay, but in a very loose manner they told us that they would like some training which gave them control over their body. Okay, so we knew that this is like martial arts training, so we're looking to see who can be a good martial art trainer, who can give them that kind of training so that they can protect themselves. Okay. So constantly you have to keep listening. And that's what our grassroots really voices told us, saying that, listen, when you sit in those air conditioned offices, you know something, okay, because of years of, just working, but they need and know best what is good for them. So you have to constantly learn and you have to constantly integrate it back. Otherwise, the program's efficacy just dies. And just to give you an example, what we've done recently, we decided there's so many changes which are happening in the market. And if the youth with disabilities don't get access to that learning, especially those at the grassroots, it'll be really sad. So, our entire grassroots curriculum, in a participative manner, we've developed it. They said we don't need that. That's too, it's not at all relevant for us. We junked that away from our content. And on the other hand, what we did is we strengthened what they asked us to do, and on top of that, what we did is we put elements like chat GPT, social media, those we put in. So it's like quite a potent, kind of content for them.
Great. Awesome. This has been fabulous conversation, Meera, and this time for us to add some more spice and excitement to the episode, just to create that particular fun engagement part. And if you're ready, it's time for us to kick off the second rapid fire round.
Okay.
All right, here comes my first bullet. If you could have one gigantic billboard anywhere with anything on it, what would it say?
Mera Bharat Mahan.
Wow.
Truly, I just
Yeah,
love our country.
yeah, yeah. Indeed. And can you describe yourself in just one word?
Maverick.
Maverick. And a role model you look up to.
Um, I think all the people who do good work in little villages, unknown, unsung.
Yeah. A book that inspired you.
Um, I think I like this author Pico Iyer, and I sort of read all his books.
Hmm. Hmm. And your favorite quote?
That's a family secret, but let me tell you, okay? Uh, my husband's a physicist, okay? So for him, everything is in equations, Naveen, okay? So he has this thing called GLAFLM, okay?
Mhm.
God looks after fools like me. Because we are so honest, we are so transparent, we don't know. But God looks after fools like us always, you know? So that's GLAFLM.
GLAFLM. Yeah. Quite interesting. Okay. And what is one thing you would change in the world?
um, I think attitudes, definitely.
Superb. And here comes the last one for the second rapid fire. What is one electronic gadget or a fantasy gadget that you like to see or invent yourself?
Something which, when you touch a person with disability, he becomes miraculously able, and therefore the whole society is equitable.
Good one. I wish it comes true. And after that amazing second rapid fire, let's flip back to the mainstream. And this is one of my standard questions to all the stalwarts on the show. So, what is one piece of advice to those aspiring to begin their careers, irrespective of their disabilities?
It's a simple formula which I wrote in my book saying that um, convert the I can't to I can.
Convert the I can't to I can. Super. I love it. And for those of you who are willing to contribute to Meera Shenoy's mission, we will publish her LinkedIn profile. Feel free to connect with her and do your bit in terms of volunteering, or you can also donate monetarily as well. And I'm sure these guys need that kind of support, and they are doing amazing job. I've personally visited Mira's office, and it was a kind of gave me goosebumps when I heard about all the good work that they are doing. And immediately I've asked her, please come to our show and inspire our audience. So that is how this episode has happened. And Mira, I thoroughly enjoyed the conversation. As I said earlier, you are an epitome of inspiration, and truly this work has to reach places. And the Guiding Voice platform is always there to support you guys in any way. And how is your experience being hosted on my show?
I think it's quite awesome because the questions were appropriate. The topic was a topic which is close to my heart. So it was an awesome experience, Naveen. Thank you so much on behalf of Youth for Jobs and people with disabilities for inviting me to the show.
Pleasure to have you, and we look forward to having many more conversations in the future. And I wish you and the entire team of Youth for Jobs all the very best. Please continue the great work that you are doing. You guys are all immortal. Like, that's what I would say. The kind of work that you are doing, right, it will remain in the history and create your own legacy. Thank you once again, Amira. I really appreciate you taking time and joining me today. All right. So, friends, that was our episode with Meera Shenoy. And before we jump into the fun trivia section, we have a quick request. In case if you haven't already subscribed to our podcast, please subscribe. And also, if you have loved the conversation and found it useful, request you to share with at least three of your friends or colleagues who would also like TGV. So, spread the knowledge and help others grow just like you. Now, it's time for us to hop into the trivia segment. And today's trivia is about the two inspiring figures who turned their disabilities into stepping stones for greatness. And this is going to drive you the theme of resilience, possibility, and most importantly, the transformation. And the first person is Helen Keller, the first deaf blind person to earn a college degree. She lost her sight and hearing at 19 months due to illness. And despite immense communication barriers, She became the first deaf-blind person to graduate from college. She graduated in 1904 and went on to become a renowned author, political activist, and also a lecturer. She traveled to 35 plus countries advocating for people with disabilities, and she co founded the ACLU and received the Presidential Medal of Freedom. And her quote is, although the world is full of suffering, it is also full of the overcoming of it. And second person I would like to talk about is Arunima Sinha, the world's first female amputee to climb Mount Everest. And she lost her left leg in a horrific train accident in 2011. And within 2 years of her injury, she trained rigorously and scaled Mount Everest in 2013, becoming the first female amputee in the world to do so. And since she since climbed the highest peaks on all 7 continents and runs a sports academy for the underprivileged as well as disabled. And her quote is, I decided to live a life of meaning, not sympathy. So these are the fun trivia facts, in fact, not, but the serious trivia facts today about people with disabilities that have created their own legacy. Likewise, if you are aware of any unsung heroes, especially with disabilities and what they have achieved, do let me know. If you're watching this episode on YouTube, you can comment there, or if you found this episode on some social media platform or audio platform like Spotify, you can comment there as well. So, folks, that's it for today. Thank you so much for tuning in and also for being part of our awesome TGV family. Your support and your love have made this journey possible. 625 episodes in the span of 5 years. And here's to many more episodes of unsung heroes and all the real life heroes like Meera ji. And until next time, take care and stay inspired. Folks, remember the best is yet to come. Goodbye for now. See you all in the next episode with another amazing guest. Take care. Love you all. Bye bye.